little controversial. Talib and the squad, I wonder why they singled out Talib in the title, introduced resolution recognizing catastrophe of Israel's creation. Resolution comes days after Israeli Independence Day. So, first of all, yes, I'm going to get canceled for my following takes, but let's read this article. I'm reading this from Fox News, because I love when Fox News talks about the squad, because they do so in such a racist and garbage fashion. House members led by Rep. Rashida Tlaib introduced a resolution Monday calling for U.S. recognition of the Nakba, a term meaning catastrophe that is typically used by Palestinians to refer to the establishment of the State of Israel. The resolution was submitted a week and a half after Israeli Independence Day, which coincides with Palestinian commemoration of Nakba Day. It calls for the U.S. to commemorate the Nakba through official recognition and remembrance, while claiming that this refers not only to a historical event, but to an ongoing process of Israel's expropriation of Palestinian land and its dispossession of Palestinian people that continues to this day. The Palestinian people, since the 48 Nakba, have been living under oppression and violent racism. Silence plus blank checks enable more death and violence, Tlaib tweeted, referencing the year Israel was created and recognized via a UN resolution and U.S. financial support for the Jewish state. First of all, calling it a Jewish state is a misnomer. Would you call Germany in 1943 the Aryan state with, legitimacy? No. And yes, I am comparing Israel to Nazi Germany. Absolutely. They are one and the same. But I didn't cover this on my show, honestly, because I forgot, because I'm a piece of garbage. But over the last week or so, there was a journalist that was murdered by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, so-called. A journalist, an American Palestinian journalist, was shot and murdered point blank on purpose. And then the IDF attacked that journalist's funeral. There is a widely circulated video of people using her casket as a shield from police assault and abuse. Again, there is no equivocating, there is no but Israel is an ethno-nationalist neo-Nazi state. Now again, when I use the term neo-Nazi, yes, the Nazis specifically targeted Jewish people, but the ideology of Nazism boils down to my race or the race I like is better than yours and everyone else's. That's what it boils down to. It's racism, it's ethno-nationalism, and that is what Israel is. It is an ethno-nationalist, supremacist, racist, apartheid country that is founded on genocide, that is founded on racism, and that is founded on mass violence and torture. And there is no other way to tell this story. This idea that because you believe in a fucking fairy tale, that God, landed on some rock somewhere. Oh, this is the rock that God landed on. That is an excuse for mass genocide and torture. When we talk about the Crusades in the history books, people are often told and taught about the Crusades as if they were bad. In what way are the Crusades different than what's going on in Israel? These are religious, fundamentalists, far-right, neo-Nazi, ethno-nationalist freaks that are committing a genocide based on race, committing a genocide based on nationality and religion. This is a modern-day crusade. There are religious nutbags that have guns and missiles that are targeting other people of other cultures and religions for the sole fact that they have a slightly different skin tone or that they believe in a different version of the same God? It's the same God. Muslims and Jews believe in the same fucking God. But it's a slightly different version. And so one of them is going to commit a mass slaughter of the other? There is no way to spin the story. Israel is a terror state. It is an ethno-state. If you condemn ethno-nationalism, you should condemn Israel. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck that, it's a Jewish state because our religion. Imagine, and yes, I'm going to say this. Imagine that someone who was murdered in the Holocaust could see what's happening in Israel. What do you think they would say? People that were violently thrown into concentration camps and mass slaughtered, if they could see what's going on in Israel-Palestine, what do you think their opinion would be? You think people who were slaughtered in the Holocaust would agree with what Israel is doing to Palestinians? Do you really think that? Oh, well, Jewish people were treated unfairly in history, so now we're going to treat other people unfairly? What? And again, all of this because, my version of God landed on this rock. So I'm going to kill and murder millions of people and torture millions of people because my God landed on a rock. Israel is a terror state, and it needs to be destroyed. It needs to be abolished. And I'm not I don't think that that's radical to say. I know some people would be very offended by that, but I say, fuck them. In the same way that I think Nazi Germany, rightfully, was destroyed and abolished, I think Israel must be destroyed and abolished. A two-state solution is not a solution at all. It's garbage. It's garbage is what it is. It's fucking garbage. Let's keep reading. Today, this is Rashida Tlaib tweeting, "Today I introduced a resolution recognizing the Nakba catastrophe where 400 Palestinian towns and villages were destroyed, over 700,000 Palestinians uprooted from their homes and made refugees. On this day, we must promote human rights and justice. The Palestinian people since the 48 Nakba have been living under oppression and violent racism. Silence plus blank checks enables more death and violence." Tlaib, who is the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, submitted the resolution on behalf of herself and AOC, Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, Marie Newman, Betty McCollum, and that's it. Tlaib, AOC, and Omar are among a group of left-wing Democrats known as the Squad, which has often taken anti-Israel positions. In the same way that I think Russia, the government of Russia, is a terror state and must be destroyed, I think the government of Israel is a terror state and must be destroyed. In the same way that I think the government of the United States is a terror state and must be destroyed. Does that mean destroying all the innocent civilians that happen to live there? No. It means getting rid of these corrupt, neo-Nazi, ethno-nationalist fucking leaders. That's what it means. There are a lot of people that live in Israel that do not support what's going on. There are a lot of people that are Jewish that do not support what's going on. This idea that criticizing Israel means you're criticizing the right for Jewish people to exist is ludicrous. That is the 14 fucking words. That is a neo-Nazi slogan. That's what Israel is founded on. We must secure a future for our Jewish children or whatever the fuck. That is a neo-Nazi slogan. The Israeli state is the modern incarnation of Nazi Germany. Full stop. Full stop. Now you can make the argument about the United States as well, or just, Western hegemony. But Israel is a prime example of successful propaganda campaigns. I'm in 100% opposition to the state of Israel. The government of Israel must be abolished. Full stop, beyond recognition. And again, this does not mean that Palestine should then occupy innocent Israeli civilians and kill and murder people because they're Jewish or Israeli. That does not mean that. But the people that are responsible for the government of Israel's actions, they need to be held accountable in the same way that the people responsible for the Holocaust were held accountable. What happened to a lot of the architects of the Holocaust? Well, we can talk about how some of them went to the United States and became officials for Western hegemony. We can talk about that. But we can also talk about the Nuremberg trials. Anyway, 100% support of this resolution. This resolution is not like, this isn't even like, this is just like to acknowledge the fact that there was a genocide. Like, it's not do anything. It's not like, oh, and we're going to abolish Israel. Oh, and this and that. Or, oh, and this. It's just literally, the resolution is like, yes, there was a genocide and it's bad. And there's still a genocide going on and it's also still bad. And that's controversial in this country. Acknowledging genocide is controversial in the United States. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? That's fucking crazy. These fucking people are crazy. Anyway, so obviously Fox News is going to jump on that, but just got to get my opinion on Israel out there. I think we need a one-state solution, and I think that state should be Palestine. I think Israel should be, as governmentally speaking, wiped off the map. That's my opinion. Now, again, that does not mean slaughtering people that live there. Of course not. Innocent civilians, people that have nothing to do with this, they should be free to live in peace. Now, does that mean that they should be able to just continue living on stolen land? We can have that conversation. But the government of Israel needs to be completely abolished. I support a one-state solution, and that state is Palestine. So that's my opinion on that.